A couple of years ago, I launched my podcast, The Conscious Creators, and at the start, I was just inviting my friends on the show to talk about topics that we found interesting. But after a couple of episodes, I started realizing, I'm gonna have to start inviting people on the show that I don't know. So where do I find podcast guests, and how do I reach out to them if they've never heard from me? That's exactly what we're gonna be looking at in this video, so let's get to it. So honestly, I find my people or my guests on Instagram. I look for people that have a larger online following that I have, so that when I invite them on the show and they then share snippets with their audience, I can get some traction off of that as well. So that would be my number one tip, is like look at their socials and see if they would actually be able to give you reach as well. Because aside from it being a really fun interview, you also want to sort of get their audience involved so that you can grow your podcast audience that way. So I am now in my DMs, and we'll put it on the screen, and I'm in my general inbox. I use my primary inbox for my actual conversations with friends, and then I use my general to reach out to people. So what I do with the Conscious Creators, the goal is to have conversations around a variety of topics so that people can think a little bit more about the decisions that they've been making. Not necessarily to say that their decisions are wrong, but I want everyone to be very conscious about their life choices. And a lot of us, myself included, a lot of our choices sort of happen automatically or unconsciously. And with the Conscious Creators, what I want to do on the show is like tell people like, hey, here's a bunch of information on how you might want to do life differently. And you can pick and choose whatever suits you, or just think about, why are you in this type of relationship? Why are you in this type of job, etc. So what I look for specifically on the show now is people more in the personal development space. So as you can see, my general inbox is a lot of messages to people with the blue tag on Instagram because they have a larger following. And for example, this is Connor from Men Talks. You should go and check his profile. He does amazing stuff when it comes to mental health for men, and he has a men's group and all that. Would definitely recommend his content, even if you didn't agree to be on a podcast. So what I do when I reach out to people is I don't actually give them all the details. These people get a lot of reach out, so I basically just told him, hey Connor, I love the content you've been putting out. I was wondering if you'd be willing to join me on an episode of my podcast called The Conscious Creators. I don't want to spam you with all the details of the show, so unless I know you're interested, let me know and have an incredible day. And that's it. I just briefly message him. And then you do that for a bunch of profiles, because when you message people that don't follow you, you will be put in their filtered or their message requests, and not their inbox. So I would say a good 20% of people that I message to would send a reply, 10 to 20%. So you send out a bunch of these messages to people that you find inspiring or that you want on your podcast. And luckily for me, Connor replied back. He said like, hi, depending on when you need to record and what the commitment is, send me more details and we can coordinate. And so I sent him sort of the details, and especially with Connor, he's very busy. I told him like, look, all we need is an hour of your time. And then I sort of specify what topics I would like to discuss with that person. I send them a Calendly link where they can book for the podcast. And then basically he replied to me, scheduled in, awesome, thanks. And so we are scheduled in for August. Now, there are other people, for example, here, Dr. Jen, I reached out to her, same message. So I send the first message that I sent is the same to everyone. I just sort of changed the name. And then she said like, hey, thanks for reaching out, but because I get so many requests, I do have to charge a podcast fee. I didn't reply to that because I'm at the moment not interested in paying people for my podcast. Now, this is, again, the same message. Dr. Tanner, her content is great. I actually think she booked in to record an episode. So I sent her the same cold message on Instagram. She's like, yes, I am interested. And so I sent her more details, and this is where I sort of adapt the messaging. So I say like, thank you so much for getting back to me. So, and then I explain the show. I invite experts on a wide range of topics to join me for a conversation. The goal is to spark deeper thought with our listeners so that they can make more informed and conscious decisions in their own lives. And then I add a paragraph specifically explaining what I would want to talk to that person about. So based on their content, I go like, I'd love to have you on to talk about chronic PTSD trauma and how we can start or further our healing process. If that sounds good to you, you can book a day and time that works for you through this link, and immediately send her the link. Looking forward to speaking with you. And she booked in. Actually, I think I got a confirmation from her. But so what you want to do is, the cold messaging can be the same for everyone, just adapt the name. You do that in bulk because not everyone will reply. And then from the people that reply, not everyone will book in. So it's okay if, for example, you send messages to 10 experts in the same field, because probably only 1 or 2 will actually reply or book in. And then when someone replies, that's when you send them more details. Keep in mind, these people get a lot of messages on social media. If you're going to spam them with all the details and what you want from them from the start without sort of engaging them in conversation, they will not reply. So that's why I keep it to a really short cold messaging, like, hey, would love to see if you are open to being on my show, but I'm not going to spam you with details unless I know that you are interested, because I know you're busy. So just let me know. And that sort of opens up the conversation. And then once someone replies, that's where you send them more details, and make sure that you immediately sort of send them a scheduling link as well. And so mine, I'm just going to click on it. As you can see, it says the Conscious Creators podcast interview takes 1 hour, and then they can basically select a day and a time that would work for them. And I'm really flexible in my schedule. There are people who only reserve 1 day a week to record their podcast. I like to be really flexible because I am inviting people from all over the world. So I like to open up my calendar pretty widely. So what you would do is you basically find people on social, and often even on Instagram, you know, like when you follow someone, you can click the little arrow drop down, and then you can see all the similar profiles. And that's like, spend a couple of hours one evening. I did that a couple of weeks ago. I spent, I think, 3 or 4 hours reaching out to people. And by the next day, I have 4 people booked. So that's 4 podcast episodes booked after 3-4 hours of outreach. And that's all there is to it. And from my experience, my podcast is relatively small. I still get really good people on my show. It's all about how you connect with them and what type of message you send, and really be respectful of people's time, and understand that the bigger the profile, or the bigger the audience a person has, the more of these messages they're going to get. So make sure that you're not just in their DMs trying to take information from them, or like trying to waste their, I wouldn't say waste their time, but if it takes 20 minutes to explain that basically what you want is for them to join you on a podcast, that's a lot of time for someone who gets a lot of DMs. So that's even with Connor, where he's like, just let me know what the time investment would be. And he just replied, booked in, that's it. And I'm fine. We'll have our call and we'll do the interview. And that's like, I'm really grateful that he wants to do that, because he is an amazing person. He puts out amazing content. So for me, with my relatively small podcast, to have him on the show is incredible. So keep in mind not to like take too much of people's time while you try and explain to them that you want them on your podcast. And then sort of use the same cold messaging strategy. But then once someone replies, that's where you personalize, and where you really tell them like, hey, I would love to talk to you about this and about that. And then the scheduling link, so that it's very easy for them to schedule in, also really, really works. And I would say that's it. Let me know in the comments how this strategy has worked for you. And then make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Share it with someone that you think might find it useful. And then in the meantime, check out these videos over here. And then I will see you in the next one.